Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was 888th night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Wazir's daughter said to herself, And as beloved be fair as he, it behoveth him to pour forth tears. And if other than fair, his heart is wasted in vain regrets. Now, Miriam the Girdle-Girl, the minister's consort, had removed to the new palace the day before, and the Wazir's daughter knew that she was straitened of breast. So she was minded to seek her and talk with her, and tell her the tidings of the young man, and the rhymes and verses she heard him recite. But before she could carry out her design, the princess sent for her to cheer her with her converse. So she went to her and found her heavy of heart, and her tears hurried down her cheek, and whilst she was weeping with sore weeping, she recited these couplets. My life is gone, but love-longings remain, and my breast is straitened with pine and pain, and my heart for parting to melt is fain, yet hoping that union will come again, and join us in one who now are twain. Stint your blame to him who in heart you thrall, with a wasted frame with his sorry skull, nor with aim of arrow his heart appall, for parted lover is saddest of all, and lover's cup of bitters is sweet to drain. Quoth the Wazir's daughter to her, What aileth thee, O princess, to be thus straitened in breast, and sorrowful of thought? Whereupon Miriam recalled the greatness of the delights that were past, and recited these two couplets. I will bear in patience estrangement of friend, and on cheeks rail tears that like torrents rend. Haply Allah will solace my sorrow, for he near the ribs of unease maketh ease at end. Said the Wazir's daughter, O princess, let not thy breast be straitened, but come with me straightway to the lattice, for there is with us in the stable a comely young man, slender of shape and sweet of speech, and me seemeth he is a parted lover. Miriam asked, And by what sign knowest thou he is a parted lover? And she answered, O queen, I know it by his improvising odes and verses all watches of the night and tides of the day. Quoth the princess in herself, If what the Wazir's daughter says be true, these are surely the traits of the baffled, the wretched Ali Nur al-Din. Would I know if indeed he be the youth of whom she speaketh? At this thought, love-longing and distraction of passion redoubled on her, and she rose at once, and walking with the maiden to the lattice, looked down upon the stables, where she saw her love and lord Nur al-Din, and fixing her eyes steadfastly upon him, knew him with the bestest knowledge of love, albeit he was sick of the greatness of his affection for her, and of the fire of passion, and the anguish of separation and yearning and distraction. Sore upon him was emaciation, and he was improvising and saying, My heart is a thrall, my tears ne'er abate, and there reigns the railing of clouds a mate, twixt my weeping and watching and wanting love, and whining and pining for dearest mate. Ah, my burning heart, my desire, my love, and for the plagues that torture my heart are 8, and 5 upon 5 are in suit of them, so stand and listen to all I state. Memory, maddening thoughts, moaning languishment, stress of longing love in plight desolate, in travail, affliction and strangerhood, and annoy and joy when on her I wait. Fail me patience, and stay for engrossing care, and sorrows by suffering soul regret. On my heart the possession of passions grows. Oh, who ask of what fire my heart create? Why my tears and vitals should kindle flame, burning heart with ardors insatiate. No, I'm drowning in deluge of tears, and my soul from laissez-lo fares to Hiwaya goal. When the Princess Miriam beheld Nur al-Din, and heard his loquence, and verse, and speech, she made certain that he was indeed her lord Nur al-Din. But she concealed her case from the Wazir's daughter, and said to him, By the virtue of the Messiah and faith which is no liar, I thought not thou knewest of my sadness. Then she rose forthright, and withdrawing from the window, returned to her own place, whilst the Wazir's daughter went to her own occupations. The prince awaited patiently a while, and then returned to the window, and sat there gazing upon her beloved Nur al-Din, delighting her eyes with his beauty and inner and outer grace. And indeed she saw that he was like unto moon at full on 14th night, but he was ever sighing with tears, never drying, for that he recalled whatso he had been a-buying. So he recited these couplets. I hope for union with my love, which I may ne'er obtain. At all but bitterness of life is all gain I gain. My tears are likest to the main for ebb and flow of tide, but when I meet the blamer white to staunch my tears I feign. Woe to the wretch who dared us part by spelling of his spells. Could I but hint his tongue in hand, I'd cut his tongue in twain. Yet will I never blame the days for whatso deed they did, mingling with mirror's pure skull the cup they made me drain. To whom shall I address myself, and whom but you shall seek a heart left hostage in your court by your captive ta'en? Who shall avenge my wrongs on you, tyrant, despotical, whose tyranny but grows the more I dare complain? I made him regnant of my soul, that he the reign assain, but me he wasted, wasting too the soul I gave to reign. O thou the fawn, whom I so lief erst gathered to my breast, and no of severance tasted I to own its might and main. Thou art he whose favours join in one all beauties known to man, yet I thereon have wasted all my patience' fair domain. I entertained him in my heart, whereto he brought unrest, but I am satisfied that I such guests could entertain. My tears for ever flow and flood, like as the surging sea, and would I wot the track to take that I thereto attain. Yet sore I fear that I shall die in depths of my chagrin, and must despair for evermore to win the wish I win. When Miriam heard the verses of Nur al-Din, the loving-hearted, the parted, they kindled in her vitals a fire of desire, and whilst her eyes ran over with tears, she recited these two couplets. I longed for him I love, but when we met, I was amazed, nor tongue nor eyes I found. I had got ready volumes of reproach, but when we meet, could syllable no sound. When Nur al-Din heard the voice of Princess Miriam, he knew it, and he wept bitter tears, saying, By Allah, this is the chanting of Lady Miriam. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 889th night, she pursued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Nur al-Din heard the voice singing these verses, he said in himself, Verily, this is Lady Miriam chanting without hesitation or doubt or suspicion of one from without. What heaven I knew, and my thought be true, and if it be indeed she herself or other self. And regrets redoubled upon him, and he bemoaned himself and recited these couplets. When my blamer saw me beside my love, whom I met in a sight that lay open wide, I spake not at meeting a word of reproach, though oft it comfort sad heart to chide. Quoth the blamer, What means this silence that bars thy making answer that hits this pride? And quoth I, O thou who hast fooled us wake, to misdoubt of lovers and love disride. The sign of lover whose love is true, when he meets his beloved, is mum to bide. When he had made an end of these verses, the Lady Miriam fetched ink case and paper and wrote thereon, After honour due to the Basmalia, may the peace of Allah be upon thee, and his mercy and blessings be. I would have thee know that thy slave girl Miriam saluteth thee, who longeth sore for thee, and this is her message to thee. As soon as this letter shall fall into thy hands, do thou arise without stay and delay, and apply thyself to that she would have of thee with all diligence, and beware with all wariness of transgressing her commandment, and of sleeping. When the first third of the night is past, for that hour is of the most favourable of times, apply thee only to saddling the two stallions, and for forth with them both to the Sultan's gate. If any ask thee whither thou wend, answer, I am going to exercise the steeds, and none will hinder thee. For folk of this city trust to the locking of the gates. Then she folded the letter in a silken kerchief, and threw it out of the lattice window to Nur al-Din, who took it, and reading it, knew it for the handwriting of Lady Miriam, and comprehended all contents. So he kissed the letter, and laid it between his eyes. Then calling to mind that which had betided him with her of the sweets of love less, he poured forth his tears while he recited these couplets. Came your writ to me in the dead of the night, and desire of you stirred heart and sprite, and remembered joys we in union joyed. Praise the Lord who placed us in parting plight. As soon as it was dark, Nur al-Din busied himself with making ready the stallions, and patiented till the first watch of the night was past, when without a moment delay, Nur al-Din, the lover full of teens, saddled them with saddles of the goodliest, and leading them forth of the stable, locked the door after him, and repaired with them to the city gate, where he sat down to await the coming of the princes. Meanwhile, Miriam returned forthright to her private apartment, where she found the one-eyed wazir seated, elbow-propped upon a cushion stuffed with ostrich down, but he was ashamed to put forth his hand to her or to bespeak her. When she saw him, she appealed to her lord in heart, saying, Allah, O my God, bring him not to his will of me, nor to me defiled decree after purity. Then she went up to him and made a show of fondness for him, and sat down by his side and coaxed him, saying, O my lord, what is this aversion thou displayest to me? Is it pride or coquetry on thy part? But the current byword saith, and the solemn salutation be little in demand. The sitters salute those who stand. So if, O my lord, thou came not to me, neither accost me, I will go to thee and accost thee. Said he, To thee belong favor and kindness, O queen of the earth in its length and breadth, and what am I but one of thy slaves and the least of thy servants? Indeed, I was ashamed to intrude upon thine illustrious presence, O unique pearl, and my face is on the earth at thy feet. She rejoined, Leave this talk, and bring us to eat and drink. Accordingly he shouted to his eunuchs and women, and ordered to serve food, and they set before them a tray containing birds of every kind that walk and fly and nest, increase and multiply, such as sound grouse and quails and pigeon pullets and lambs and fatted geese and fried poultry and other dishes of all sorts and colors. The princess put out her hand to the tray and began to eat and feed the wazir with her fair fingertips, and kissed him on the mouth. Then ate till they had enough and washed their hands, after which the handmaidens removed the tables of food and set on the service of wine. So Princess Miriam filled the cup and drank, and gave the wazir to drink, and served him with assiduous service, so that he was like to fly for joy, and his breast broadened, and he was of the gladdest. When she saw that the wine had gotten the better of his senses, she thrust her hand into her bosom, and brought out a pastille of virgin Cretan bong, which she had provided against such an hour, whereof if an elephant smelt a dirham's weight, he would sleep from year to year. She distracted his attention and crumbled the drug into the cup, then filling it up, handed it to the wazir, who could hardly credit his sense for delight. So he took it, and kissing her hand, drank it off, but hardly had it settled in his stomach when he fell head foremost to the ground. Then she rose, and filling 2 great pairs of saddlebags with what was light of weight and weighty of worth of jewels and hyacinths and precious stones, together with somewhat of meat and drink, donned harness of war, and armed herself for fight. She also took with her for Nur al-Din what should rejoice him of rich and royal apparel, and splendid arms and armor, and shouldering the bags, for indeed her strength equalled her valiancy, hastened forth from the new palace to join her lover. On this wise fared it with Lady Miriam, but as regards Nur al-Din and Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 890th night, she resumed, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the Lady Miriam left the new palace, she went straightways to meet her lover, for indeed she was as valiant as she was strong. But Nur al-Din, the distracted, the full of teen, sat at the city gate, hending the horses' halters in hand, till Allah, to whom belong majesty and might, sent a sleep upon him, and he slept. Glory be to him who sleepeth not. But at that time the king of the islands had spent much treasure in bribing folk to steal the 2 steeds of one of them, and in those days there was a black slave, who had been reared in the islands, skilled in horse-lifting. Wherefore the king of the Franks seduced him with wealth galore to steal one of the stallions, and promised him, if he could avail to lift the 2, that they would give him the whole island, and endue him with splendid robe of honor. He had not long gone about the city of France in disguise, but succeeded not in taking the horses whilst they were with the king. But when he gave them in free gift to the wazir and the monocular who carried them to his stable, the blackamoor thief rejoiced with joy exceeding, and made sure of the success, saying in himself, By the virtue of the Messiah and the faith which is no liar, I will certainly steal the 2 of them. Now he had gone out that very night, intending for the stable to lift them, but as he walked along, behold, he caught sight of Nur al-Din lying asleep with the halters in his hands. So he went up to the horses, and loosing the halters from their heads, was about to mount one of them and drive the others before, when suddenly up came Princess Miriam, carrying on her shoulders the couple of saddlebags. She mistook the black for Nur al-Din and handed him the one pair of bags, which he laid on one of the stallions, after which she gave him the order, and he set it on the second steed without a word, said to discover that it was not her lover. Then they mounted and rode out the gate in silence, till presently she asked, "O my lord, Nur al-Din, what aileth thee to be silent?" Whereupon the black turned to her and cried out angrily, "What sayest thou, O damsel?" When she heard the slave's barbarous accents, she knew that the speech was that of Nur al-Din. So raising her eyes, she looked at him and saw that he was a black chattel, snub-nosed and wide-mouthed, with a nostril like yours. Whereupon the light in her eyes became night, and she asked him, "Who art thou, O sheikh of the sons of Ham, and what among men is thy name?" He answered, "O daughter of the base, my name is Masud, the lifter of horses, when folk slumber and sleep." She made him no reply, but straightway bearing her blade, smote him on the nape, and the blade came out gleaming from his throat and tendons, whereupon he fell earthwards, weltering in his blood. And Allah hurried his soul to the fire, and abiding place dire. Then she took the other horse by the bridle, and retraced her steps in search of Nur al-Din, whom she found lying asleep and snoring in the place where she had appointed him to meet her, hending the halts in hand, she knowing not his fingers from his feet. So she dismounted and gave him a cuff, whereupon he awoke in a fright and said to her, "O my lady, praised be Allah for thy safe coming." Said she, "Rise and back the steed, and hold thy tongue." So she rose and mounted one of the stallions, whilst she bestrode the other, and they went forth the city, and rode on a while in silence. Then said to him, "Did I not bid thee beware of sleeping?" Verily he prospered not who sleepeth. He rejoined, "O my lady, I slept not because of the cooling of my heart by reason of thy promise, but what hath happened, O my lady?" So she told her of the adventure with the black first and last, and he said, "Praised be Allah for thy safety." Then they fared on at full speed, committing their affair to the subtle, the all-wise, and conversing as they went, till they came to the place where the black lay prostrate in the dust, as he were an ifrit. And Miriam said to Nur al-Din, "Dismount, strip him of his clothes, and take his arms." He answered, "By Allah, O my lady, I dare not dismount nor approach him." And indeed he marvelled at the blackamoor's stature, and praised the princess for her deed, wondering the while of her valour and stout-heartedness. They fared on lustily, and ceased not doing all that night, and halted not till the day broke with its shine and sheen, and the sun shone bright upon the plain and height, when they came to the wide Ravino Lee, wherein the gazelles were frisking gracefully. Its surface was clothed with green, and on all sides fruit trees of every kind were seen. Its slopes for flowers like serpent bellies showed, and birds sang on boughs aloud, and its rills and manifold runnels flowed. And indeed it was as saith the poet, and saith well, and accomplished the hearer's desire. Rosy red wadi hot with summer glow, where twofold tail of common growth was plied. In copse we halted wherein bent to us branches as bendeth nurse or weaning child. And pure cold water, quenching thirst, we sipped, to cup mate sweeter than old wine and mild. From every side it shut out sheen of sun screen-like, but wooed the breeze to cool the wild, and pebbles, sweet as maidens decked and dight, and soft as threaded pearls, and touch beguiled. And as saith another, and when birdies or wobble its lakelet it gars, longing lovers to seek it where morning glows. For likest to paradise lie banks, with shade and fruitage and fount that flows. Presently Princess Miriam and Nur al-Din alighted to rest in this wadi, and Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my telling of this tale for today, till it be morrow.